The nature of viruses. Viruses consist of a nucleic acid genome packaged in a protein coat. So we know that viruses are the smallest and simplest forms of life on Earth. In fact, they actually lie just on the edge of what's considered life, so the edge of chemical compounds and life. This is because they lack many of the common enzymes and machinery such as ribosomes that are necessary to produce proteins and to self-replicate. So the two most common forms of virus are the morphologies shown below. The most common shapes that viruses come in are roughly spherical shapes like this, where they contain a lipid bilayer surrounding outside of the protein capsid, and these red lines here are the envelope proteins that allow stuff to go in and out of the virus. So we can see that the green circles represent the protein capsid. The black outline here represents the lipid layer. The blue lines represent genetic material, and the red lines represent envelope proteins. We can see that the envelope proteins and the lipid layer aren't present in the rod shape of the virus. We see here that we only have a kind of like a double helical or single helical shape, where there's an outer layer of protein capsids and an inner layer of genetic material. So the entire form of the virus, including all of its components such as the protein capsids and genetic material, is called a virion. Viruses depend on living cells for replication. So viruses can replicate only within living cells. So another way to define them as is they're called obligatory intracellular parasites. Viruses depend on cells for the replication because they lack the following basic elements required for growth and replication, which are present in all other forms of life. Enzyme systems that produce the basic chemical building blocks of life, such as nucleotides, amino acids, carbohydrates, and lipids. They also don't generate forms of usable energy, so they're not able to generate ATP or GTP or any other kind of biomolecule that's a usable form of energy for the virus. They also don't contain machinery for protein synthesis, so they don't have any ribosomes, transfer RNAs, and the associated enzymatic machinery that directs the protein synthesis process. And they also don't contain intracellular membranes. so they don't have those types of membranes that direct different organelles within their body or within the body of the virus. Further, they also don't contain inorganic ions. Virus particles break down to release genetic material inside of cells. So when a virus attaches itself to a host cell, if we can imagine this host cell as being this blue shape here, and let's say we have a rod virus come by. So the rod virus attaches itself onto the outer layer of the cell, and the protein capsid disintegrates, which allows the genetic material of the virus to enter the host cell. And once the genetic material is inside the host cell, it's then able to be located by transfer RNAs within the host cell and attach itself to ribosomes. So if we can imagine this here as a ribosome, and the genetic material of the virus, well, now this ribosome is going to produce the protein products encoded on the nucleotides on the virus genome, and that's going to synthesize the proteins that allow, or basically hijack, the host cell into producing more host cells containing these viral enzymes. Virus genomes are either made up of RNA or DNA, but not both. Further, they can either be linear or circular, and they can either be single-stranded or double-stranded. Furthermore, viruses that contain RNA are kind of unique because they're the only kinds of forms of life that use RNA as a form of passing on their genes, right? All other life forms use DNA, and RNA is usually used to synthesize protein building products. But in this case, viruses that have genomes that are made of RNA, they are unique in that aspect. And furthermore, because of their uniqueness, so RNA viruses are unique, they face two challenges. So one, they must be able to create their own messenger RNA, and two, they must be able to replicate their genomic RNA. However, most RNA-containing viruses contain the polymerases to carry out these functions.